Mr. Tommy Ashman. What's up, sir?
Oh,
Cheers.
man.
Welcome
Cheers.
back from Chi-Town.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Got a little...
that's good.
A little bee's knees for you.
Hang on, let me get the ASMR here for you.
Yep. Wow. There we go. We love that.
Oh, yeah.
You brought the Dragon Slayers, bro.
Yeah, I brought a few of them. I wanted to give you a try.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to try them later. I literally rent out a gym space down the street, so I'm excited to go test them out over there.
Perfect.
Dude, they're beautiful.
Thank you.
How did you come up with the idea?
Originally, it's from Berserk.
Okay, so real quick, I do not know what Berserk is. I know a lot of friends who've like watched it and are super into anime, but like if you could describe the series, like how would you describe it?
Berserk is one of the darkest stories I've ever read. Like it's really, really dark. It's about like medieval time, Dark Ages Europe, wars and shit. And the main character is this guy Guts, who's like a kid literally born from a corpse and is raised by like a band of mercenaries, super traumatic childhood.
Born from a corpse.
Like his mom dies while giving birth and he crawls out of her womb. Like it's really dark. And he's given a sword as a child and basically just like taught how to fight from the get-go, and that's his life. He just has a sword. And he ends up being like a 6'7" dude who wields a 20-pound sword. And throughout the series, the swords just get progressively larger and larger and larger until, as an adult, he has a sword that's literally like pretty much that big.
So does it grow? Just the sword grows with it?
No. The sword breaks and then he just gets a bigger one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And ironically, like a 20-pound sword is actually super heavy. So like, is this an anime series or is it actually just like a book series?
It's an anime series. It's a manga originally that was converted into an anime. Yeah.
What inspired you to, I guess, like make one in real life?
Originally, a guy I trained with made the first one.
Okay.
And I took it and ran with it. He sort of had it as like kind of like a joke, like how I'll make this. And I saw
it. Was
it
it based on
like,
that story as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I took it and was like, this is a really, really interesting way of strength training. I'd been doing swords for probably 6 years at the time.
Okay.
Through the Kung Fu school I went to and through karate growing up. So I knew a pretty fair amount of sword play. And I trained with like an 8-pound sword before that my Sifu had. Okay. But this was just such another level of that feeling of like the push-pull you get when you're using a sword that I loved it. So
it's so different because like you don't get that push-pulling movement from like a lighter sword at all. No. Like I guess the only feeling that I can relate it to is like a steel mace, with Have you worked with steel maces at all?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, that push-pull movement. But, like, the reason why I was so intrigued when I saw all your, I guess, like, media and content creation and all that is because people fall in love with stories, and there's a lot of people who are into anime and these stories who don't work out.
Yeah.
Right? And when I saw you blowing up, and I was like, this makes sense. And it makes sense because there's all these people who don't work out but would love to try to work out with something that resonates to them.
Exactly. And that's sort of what I was trying to tap into. Is like, our parents' generation had, Rocky and Rambo and Arnold and all these guys to look up to who like, they just pump iron. They get huge. Yep. They box. And our generation doesn't really have that like that. Our generation had Dragon Ball Z and, those types of things.
Yeah.
So the way you tap into the nostalgia factor and just get that visceral sense of like effort and force is through a different medium.
And it could train them the same way.
Oh, absolutely.
Like it still works like the science of like the, I guess like hypertrophy of training and growing muscle. Like it can be used like, and it's even better for using like weird objects because in real life, objects aren't symmetrical that you lift up and put down.
Yeah, exactly. So it's this whole concept of leverage-based strength training. So, prior to training with the Dragon Slayer, I did about 2 years of kettlebell strength training and kettlebell sport training with this guy, Andrew Bora. He's second in the world in his weight class for kettlebell sport. Dude is an animal. Can
you define what kettlebell sport is? Because I don't really know what that is.
So kettlebell sport is basically 10-minute rounds of doing as many reps as possible of either clean and jerk or snatch or just jerk with really heavy kettlebells.
So is it like to measure that, to compete in that, there has to be a certain weight for each weight class.
Yeah, so
Okay.
there's weight classes, your weight matters, and then also the weight of the kettlebell you're using matters.
Okay.
And you have to be able to swing, clean, and jerk a kettlebell for 10 minutes straight.
That's a long ass time.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable.
Like if people are listening out there, doing like just kettlebell swings for like 1 minute, like you are gassed, you are like absolutely dead.
Yeah.
And you telling me like a 10-minute round of something, that's
10-minute
that's
round
wild.
of clean and jerk, doing like competition speed is like 6-7 reps a minute,
Okay.
but that's with two 32 kilogram kettlebells.
Yeah, that's heavy as fuck.
Yeah, it's insane. So that Persian or Indian club training, which I also think is a phenomenal form of training.
Yeah.
And mace training. So all that flow stuff, as well as like the martial arts and sword training I did, bow staff training, nunchuck training, all sort of came together to create leverage-based training, which is rather than just going for the flow of it, where you have this off-centered object and you're kind of like finding flow in the swing, it's actively taking it as far off the leverage as possible and then muscling it back to that balanced place, which I think is something that's missing from a lot of strength training programs.
How so?
It's just so many movements are either just straight linear, like bench press or military press or squats, or they'll have a swing to it, but the swing has a flow to it.
Yeah, and a lot of movements I feel don't have the both push and pull of it. That's interesting. What do you call it? I've been seeing like your progression of you doing it, because you're also getting better at using it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And like in the beginning I was just like, oh, it looks so stiff. Like, is that, and then now it's like very flowy. And for you to build the flow from like how weird the object is so cool, dude.
Yeah, and that's the whole concept of leverage though, is like I've felt my joints change how they feel. Like especially when I was working as a stretch therapist. Yeah. I found that like as I'm holding on to people and moving their bodies, what used to take more effort now takes a lot less effort. Like I can just hold someone's arm or leg in a position, and it would look awkward for my arm, but my arm just feels completely solid held like that. So
I guess how did you get into just I don't know how to put it in. It's either like movement or fitness. So like how did you get into movement and fitness? Like, because you have all these aspects that are very admirable, super cool. Sounds like it looks like you're very efficient and really good at a lot of them.
Well, I started martial arts when I was 4 years old. Okay. So I started
what type of martial arts?
Shidokan and Shotokan karate.
Okay, I did Shotokan.
Yeah, so I did Shotokan at a really young age through a dojo back in Chicagoland, and then my father's foreman, my father's general contractor, his foreman was a second-degree black belt in Shidokan karate.
Okay, what's the difference?
Shotokan is point sparring. Shidokan is probably a step more intense than MMA. It's a 5-round sport. Okay. First 2 rounds, I always get the first 2 and second 2 rounds mixed up. The first 2 rounds are either with boxing gloves or MMA gloves. Okay. And you can't punch in the face. And then the second 2 rounds are, I think, with MMA gloves, and you can punch in the face. And then the 5th round is bare knuckle, and it goes till knockout. What? Yeah, no, it's really brutal.
Have you competed in it?
No. He raised me in it growing. He just like taught me some of the stuff growing up. He taught me the conditioning. Okay. Basically, he taught me how to like actually take a hit and how to actually throw a hit.
And this is your father's foreman?
Yeah.
Okay.
Polish dude, just total badass.
So I have a lot of Polish friends out here, bro, and they're built different, dude. Oh yeah, they're built different. We did the Murph yesterday with I went to Poland to go to this guy's wedding, and this dude's 6'2", 223-ish pounds, like 5% body fat. He just ran a marathon, half marathon at a 7-minute mile pace for 13 miles.
Oh my god,
220 pounds, bro. Yeah, and I'm just like, dang, these Polish people are built different out here. But that's crazy that you said that too, because his other friend is like a world-class jiu-jitsu guy. Yeah, and I'm just like, what are they feeding these guys over there?
Straight work ethic.
Yeah, I don't get it, because like they do it in every aspect of their life. Yeah, you know, and I'm just like, what's different with their culture that's like missing here? Because I'm learning it from my friends who are like that, but it's not necessarily in the American culture to like that physicality that goes over to like business, that goes into art, you know? Yeah. Because like there's a lot of artists or creatives out here who are very good at what they do, but they don't have that like work ethic behind it.
Yeah, you know? Absolutely. And that's something I notice a lot in LA and in America in general. I think that the concept of like the American work ethic is something that's kind of publicly been up for debate, I guess would be the way to put it, where people say like, oh, like the younger generation doesn't want to work as hard and all this stuff. And there's so much stuff to that. But
that's so repetitive though, because I feel like there's a lot of people who, I mean, each generation says that about the last generation.
Exactly. Like there's texts from like ancient Greece where they were saying that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, there's
so it's crazy.
Not
dude.
that much there.
Yeah, I just got back from Japan, and the one thing that I really appreciated over there that they don't have here is like they're really good at whatever they do. Like, so if you're like, I went into McDonald's, bro, and these guys had like a vest and a tie on, and they are making these burgers like exactly how you see them on TV.
Wow.
Like it is picture perfect, like a beautiful piece of art. I mean, I'm not saying that it is or what or not, but it is. Like they made it perfectly. They take pride in what they do, regardless if you are whatever, a craftsman, working on the roads, anything like that. And everyone treats everyone with respect. They bow and everything like that. I was just like, wow.
Well,
like,
that's definitely cultural. I mean, like Japan, it's very much like a society-based society, and it's like your value is what you contribute to society in whatever role you find yourself in. Whereas I feel like America is a lot more of an individual-based society where everyone is told from a pretty young age, like you have this inherent value and you're special, and I think that changes how people view jobs and careers and also the value they contribute. And I don't want to be like calling people entitled because I don't think I'm in a position to do that. But I do see some things that happen in America that just aren't necessarily the best for society as far as like the way people prioritize themselves and their own needs over society as a whole.
I do agree with you, but like the people that we hang out with, or at least the friends that I have and the friends that it seems like you have as well, like they're not like that.
No, not at all. And it's all about who you decide to surround yourself with. And that's also what's going to create you as a person, is the people you surround yourself with.
100%, bro. That's what I love about LA too, is I feel like if you find your right tribe out here, it's either it makes this city a very beautiful place, you know, because like there's a lot of like dark areas of the city as well.
Oh yeah.
Like the Skid Rows of downtown, and like just even certain pockets, like it's not great.
I mean, you can go under a bridge and suddenly be in like a literally a different universe.
Yeah. It really fucked me up the other day. I found out, have you heard of the show Soft White Underbelly?
I have not.
So there's this guy, he used to be a portrait photographer for Google, and he just didn't find the job fulfilling anymore. And one day he just decided to take portrait photographs of like homeless people, of pimps, gangsters, of prostitutes, right? And he would pay them to, he would take photos of them. Can I take a photo of you? And he'd offer them like money, just like, hey, X, Y, and Z. And it exposed to me like this world that I just don't know, right? So like he's interviewing like addicts and pimps, and like there's this one girl who would talk about how she got like raped by her stepdad, and it was like a gory scene. And
holy shit.
Yeah, and it was really dark shit. But the reason why I listen to it probably like once a month is because it puts shit in perspective of like, oh, like I have it great, you know? And and I want to like just know what else is going on in the area that I live in or around the world, in these situations that other people didn't have a choice to be in, right? But the other day, dude, the latest interview, it was, someone kept sending me this interview. I was like, I didn't know these guys knew about this show. And it was a kid from my high school. It's like a fentanyl addict in downtown.
Oh my God. And
I was like, wow, I didn't even recognize him. And I was like, that is the importance of community, because it's not necessarily that he was given a bad, like dealt a bad hand, because he wasn't. We came from the same environment, you know, and that just shows you how important your friends are.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy, dude.
Yeah, that's it's kind of a sobering thought, ironically, but
yeah,
it's kind of just like, wow, like it's at any given point, we're really only like one or two bad decisions away from being under a bridge ourselves.
Yeah, dude. You could literally make one or two bad decisions that really fuck with you.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
And it's the consistent act of making them every day that just continue to have the life you have.
Yeah, Absolutely.
So you were going into karate and you did martial arts, and I guess for me, dude, I grew out of it. Like, I liked it at the time, but I don't know, school got in the way. School was like thrown at me, especially in an Asian household, of like, do your math, do this and that, and I kind of just like grew out of it, and my parents didn't really care about keeping me in there. So I guess, how did you stay in it to like adulthood? Because like you still continue to, like, it's cool to see. There's a lot, for example, for me, I guess fitness, I'm staying fit throughout my like lifetime, but there's a ton of friends who are way fitter than me in, like, I would say high school, who aren't even fit anymore.
Oh yeah.
You know, so, and for you, it's like you could do more stuff than just fitness, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess, how did you stay in it?
I actually did grow out of it for a bit, and then I ended up growing back into it when I was in my teens. So around the time I was like probably 9 or 10, I stopped caring about it as much. I stopped going to karate. I stopped going to gymnastics. Just kind of went into a different stage of life. And then when I was 15, I started taking it really seriously again. I got back into karate, got back into just fitness as a whole.
Why do you think you got out of it?
Mental health stuff would be the simplest way to put it.
Yeah, in what way?
I was never really a great student, and I was pretty socially awkward as a kid. So I think I just started to get more depressed. I started to get like really into like video games and stuff, and just kind of wasting time.
Yeah, did it fuck with you emotionally? Because like, I remember when I was in karate, like, it wasn't the cool thing to do. Like, I got made fun of it for a little bit. Like, I remember like first, second grade.
Maybe a little bit. I think I just didn't really know how to socialize.
Okay.
And it had less to do with like what I was doing with my time, and more the fact that I just like didn't really have the developmental social skills. I'm pretty sure at this point that I'm on the spectrum to some extent, probably like high functioning Asperger's.
Sure.
But I also try to think that all that stuff's kind of arbitrary, and if it's a spectrum, everyone's on it.
Everyone's
so it's
on
like,
it. Yeah.
I try not to put too much weight in a label like that.
So you got back into it around like 15 or 16?
Yeah. So I got back into it. My father is actually a huge part of the reason I did. So my dad has really bad arthritis. His body is like totally breaking down. He's going to need a knee replacement later this year.
Damn, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm doing my best to help him with it. But I started to see how his body was breaking down. And I was like, I never want to deal with this. So I started getting really serious about fitness again, really serious about just taking care of my body, taking care of my joints especially. And then when I got into Kung Fu at 17, it was like the holy grail of just alternative strength and fitness information, where it's like, okay, this is how these monks, who literally like from the time they're born, their sole purpose in life is to live as long as possible while being as young as possible. And it was amazing, because the methods that these guys were using for strength training, for reverse aging.
Do you know what type of monks these are?
Shaolin monks. And Taoist monks.
Okay.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. The
So
types
they
of stuff
practice
they come
Kung
up
Fu?
with. Yeah.
Okay. What are some of the stuff that they come up with?
A lot of Qigong exercises, a lot of stuff that has to do with circulation especially, and also like really proper breathing.
Okay. Can you explain some of these exercises, like articulate it in a way that like someone can understand?
Yeah. So there's a massive stigma around like everything Kung Fu and everything Qigong, especially Qi, because like the idea of like, oh, I have like this internal energy.
Is that kind of like the Tai Chi stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Tai Chi is actually a perfect example. So Tai Chi translates to basically grand ultimate fist.
Okay.
And the misinterpretation of that is that, oh, Tai Chi thinks it's like the ultimate martial art and it could beat anything in a fight. And that's not really what it is. The reason it's called grand ultimate fist is because Tai Chi comprises Qigong, meditation, and physical training all together in one form of exercise, which means if you practice Tai Chi, you will take care of training your mind, training your circulatory system, and also training your body.
And that's ultimate fist.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because if all you practice is Tai Chi, you'll live into your 80s or 90s still feeling young and healthy.
Okay.
Which is the real point of that philosophy of martial arts. It's not to be able to beat everyone up. It's to be able to live with a high quality of life for as long as possible.
Yeah, that's the whole thing with it's like so many people have like, I want to be fit. The goal isn't to become fit. The goal is to be fit for the rest of your life. Like,
exactly.
The goal isn't to like win at business. The goal is to be in business for the rest of your life.
Keep the game going.
Keep the game going. It's an unlimited game, bro.
Exactly.
Okay, continue.
So when I was taught about chi,
Yeah.
I was taught that it has like several different meanings. First is this idea of metabolic energy that's created when your body burns calories, which is the whole concept of like, okay, you can like generate heat, stuff like that. Another definition I was taught about it was blood. So chi is literally your blood and the way you can control your circulatory system. And a lot of people would say, oh, well, Tommy, you can't control your circulatory system and your blood flow with your mind. And to them, I would say, well, think about a pair of tits and see where your blood goes.
It's true.
Yeah. So the first exercise I was taught in Qigong.
That's real. That's definitely real.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
That's definitely a very good example.
Yeah.
Okay, continue.
There's an exercise called Reach for Heaven and Earth.
Okay.
Which basically you stand in like kind of a tall horse stance, feet shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent. You have your hands in front of your belly button, kind of just moving in a circle like this. And all you're trying to do is really focus on the sensation of heat that comes off of your hand. And you're just trying to feel like the heat of one hand on the other. You just focus on your breathing. And then as you just kind of like center and clear your mind, you reach one hand down, one hand up, take a deep breath in. You look down at your bottom hand. And what it does is it uses gravity to basically seesaw the blood from your top arm into your bottom arm.
So it's like that energy transfer.
Yeah, but it's a very physical process. It's not like a magic energy thing. It's like, okay, gravity's going to take blood from here and put it here.
Yeah.
And what you'll find is the blood vessels in your top arm are going to constrict and the blood vessels in your bottom arm are going to expand. And it's basically yoga for your blood vessels.
Okay.
And you do that, you come back to center, you do it back and forth, and you'll see it even after the first rep. I'll show you this after.
Yeah.
You'll see one of your hands is going to be like red and the other one's going to be pale. And it's noticeable immediately. And those types of exercises allow you to have significantly better circulation throughout the course of your life.
So obviously, like, you experiencing your dad like deteriorate like this, how did you know like straight to go to like, I'm gonna learn what these monks did? Because like I heard, like, how did you learn about this? Like it had to come into your atmosphere of like just being, like,
it was totally kung fu movies.
Oh,
100%.
Really?
100%. Like the age of media and the age of the internet. I was fortunate enough to like see stuff like that and be like, oh, like this guy Bruce Lee existed before I was born.
Sure.
And I mean, he's one of my biggest inspirations. I literally had a painting of Bruce Lee in my room.
Love that.
Like he's a hero, man.
And so like you would see these movies and you didn't, I guess as a kid, like, did you just assume they were real? Like everything?
Not everything, but a lot of it. Like when I watched the 36 Chambers of Shaolin, have you seen that?
Yeah, is that a Bruce Lee movie?
No. It's Shaw Brothers.
I don't think so.
Great movie, man.
What's it called one more time?
36 Chambers of Shaolin.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out.
I'm gonna send you the scene that like really directly inspired leverage-based training after this. It's so great.
Sweet.
I watched that movie and I'm like, this is exactly how it works. Like in my head, I'm like, this is it. This is the most straightforward way of like training and conditioning the body.
That's what I love about media these days, because like a lot of people will talk down about media and video games and stuff like that just because like, oh, it's taking up much of our youth's time and X, Y, and Z, and their brains are deteriorating or like whatever. But I feel like it could be used for positive, like, because video games teach hand-eye coordination, right?
Oh,
be
absolutely.
quick with it. And also, like, a lot of this stuff can be real. Like, these video games, like, if you treat life like a video game and, like, each level wherever you're at, you could beat that level and move on.
Yeah.
Or, like, these movies, like, the heroic figure in all these movies, like, you could be the hero of your own movie.
Absolutely.
And so, like, if in my opinion, if people treated or taught their kids these lessons through what they're already doing and implementing them in their real life, I'd be like, oh, this is beneficial,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think video games are a great example too, because video games, when you're playing a video game, you are the main character. There's no video game where you're a side character.
Yeah.
So
because you have control of the whole thing.
Exactly. So video games help people look at life like that. And I think that's such an important mental thing where it's not just like, okay, I can beat the level, but also like waking up every day and thinking about it as progression. Like I always try to tell myself like today is the best day of my life because I know more today and I have experienced more today than I have at any other day I've ever lived. And tomorrow I'm going to have all of today too to lead into that. So
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I try to live by that.
Because there's a lot of people who just, I don't know, some shit will happen. So, like, a family member would die, or, like, they have a breakup, or someone, like, fired them. They don't have a job anymore, and they're just like, fuck, you know? And, like, if you could wake up and all that shit's still happening, and you're like, wow, this is a feeling that I now know, or this is a experience that I now have that could catapult me into the future, because I know these things now, is a superpower.
Yeah, and especially I think chess is great too. One of the first things I learned, the first game I learned how to play was chess. My grandma taught me. And then my dad taught me the most important lesson of chess, which is you only learn when you lose. You don't learn from winning in chess. If you win in chess every single time you play, you're never going to learn. Yeah. But when you lose in chess, you have to think about why you lost, what happened, where you made a mistake, how to fix it, and that's how you get closer to goals.
Do you know all the, like, are you nerdy about chess? Like, you know all the space numbers and everything?
No, I'm nowhere near that good. Okay. I played as a kid, and I haven't played.
We should play sometime, bro.
I would love to. I always tell myself I'm going to get, like, really into it, and then I don't.
I don't get into it. I like playing it similar to, like, this podcast, like, and I guess, like, having a cocktail here and there. To me, chess is like a stimulant of, like, you're doing something that's slightly competitive or slightly stimulating the mind. And I feel like things that stimulate the mind also stimulate good conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like, I love, my goal every week for working out is always to try something new with someone else. So I guess today it's you and
you're gonna try Dragon Slayers,
bro. Because I feel like it's an infinite game too, in the sense that, like, there's always a new movement out there. Like, if it's invented, or, like, we were just talking about Little T, shouts out Taylor, about the Dragon Pistol Squat, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they weren't very popular, like, a couple years ago. Like, everyone's doing them now, which is, like, super impressive. Also, not everyone's doing them. Most people cannot do them, but a lot of fitness influencers are trying to do them out there, you know? So, you got into these movies, you saw your dad, and you wanted to just, like, be healthy.
Yeah.
And, like, what inspired you to, like, push the limit? Because I don't know, besides you and John, like, many dudes who could move like you can, like, do the splits, like, what's it called? What's his name?
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
The oversplits. That oversplits.
Yeah.
If you guys seen Bloodsport, one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
So good. That man's iconic in doing just this. He was, like, tied to bamboo trees, right?
Yeah.
And they're, like, cranking it, and dude, this shit's impressive.
Oh, yeah. He's amazing, man. I'm very obsessive. I've always been a very obsessive person when I'm oriented towards a goal.
Where do you think that comes from?
Probably my autism. Probably that aspect of my personality.
Sure.
I would assume it's the same kind of thing that makes me, like, not so, like, I don't want to say social. I'm very social, but like, the kind of thing that will make me just, like, I will go and I will delve into something for hours and hours and hours if I can hyper focus on it. Like, when I was a kid, I would make like bead artwork, and I could work 6-7 hours till, like, 3 a.m. when I was in, like, 5th grade, and I wouldn't even know the time passed. So I've always kind of been like that.
That's a superpower, bro. I've been trying to do that for my entire life, and I can't sit down for more than, like, 2 hours.
Yeah, I don't know what makes me like that, but that's
cool. So you just like, dove into, like, this fitness realm.
Yeah.
And, like, every aspect of it sounds like.
Yeah, I became obsessed with everything. I was like, I got this idea in my head that, like, if I work for it, it will happen. And when there was no, like, what if in the equation, it was just like, the work is the only factor, and with work, anything is possible.
Yeah, the more input that I have,
all that mattered was just, okay, I just have to work more.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Dang, that doesn't sound healthy. It can be healthy.
Yeah, I mean, it's within reason and with strategy in it. So it's not just like, okay, I'm just gonna, like, work out and break my body down. It's like, okay, I need to work out, but then I need to research recovery. I need to research nutrition. So it became, like, everything.
Yeah. You feel like you're pretty disciplined in every aspect?
Not great at falling asleep. Yeah.
Like, you just can't, like, knock out, like, anytime you want?
No, I'm so bad at it.
I feel like that's the only thing
Sleep's, like,
at.
the big thing that I'm, like, trying to conquer right now. It's going to bed early and waking up early.
Sleep's a superpower. I've been trying. I feel like naturally I could go to bed really early and wake up early, but I'm going to bed late and waking up early and then taking naps during the day. It's just like with work, bartending at night and personal training in the morning just doesn't go well. So
Yeah.
you've got to figure that out. Because after reading, I read this book called Peak by Dr. Mark Jacobs, I think. And have you heard of NSCA, just a certification, National Strength and Conditioning Association?
Yeah.
So like he was like one of the board members on there.
Okay.
And like the first chapter is about sleep. And then listening to a couple of podcasts with like Andrew Huberman, he talked about sleep. I'm just like, dang it. Like I thought I was like real healthy. And the most important thing that you could do for your body is like prioritize your sleep. And I was like,
Yeah.
And like there's tricks, dude. I mean, like falling asleep, I think at 68 degrees, like a certain area, and then pitch black in the room, white sheets. Like I don't know if they work or not, but like they've done studies on them that show that help.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the big thing, especially more recently, is cell phone use. I think now that I'm running an internet business, I'm on my phone constantly. And it's funny because I have a friend that I just went out with in Chicago. And he just graduated law school. He's studying for the bar right now.
Okay.
He deleted social media off his phone for 3 months. Which is funny because in that time I started blowing up on social media.
Yeah.
So he got back on and he was like, what
is going
what
on?
happened?
Yeah.
Like, but we went out and he was like, yeah, dude, I barely use this stuff. And I'm looking at him and I'm like, dude, I wish. Like,
Yeah, but like, dude, this media stuff, like, it allowed you to start this like business that you couldn't do 10 years ago.
no, absolutely not. There's no way.
Yeah, zero chance.
Yeah.
And like, how do you feel that it's got a relatively big, a pretty good following now?
Yeah, it's
How does it make you feel?
I don't know. It at first it was like very like, wow, oh my God, this is happening. Like it's exciting. And now it's actually very mundane. It's just like, okay, this is just a job now. Like this is work. I have to do it like this.
Yeah.
It became a responsibility very quickly because
But if you think about it, bro, so like you have like around 120,000 people on TikTok, right?
Yeah.
So just imagine 120,000 people in person, right? Like, and they're like looking at you, like,
yeah,
it's a relatively big deal because
Yeah.
the one thing that I always tell people about, like on the podcast and everything, are you a fan of, or do you know who Jordan Peterson is at all?
Oh yeah.
So he talks.
yeah, of course.
He talks about just like how small the world is, and like you could either decide that your life means nothing or it means everything. And if it means everything, it could affect millions and millions of other people. Because in my lifetime, everyone's gonna know around 1,000 people by name in their lifetime. So between you and me, we're gonna have like 1,000 here, 1,000 there. So our network, in terms of people we affect, is going to be around 1 million people. And if you expand that, it's going to be like two other sides is 1 billion people. So that's like 1/8 of the population. But if you expand it on social media, it has the potential to affect the entire world.
Yeah.
So what you say and what I say on this podcast, or what you do on social media, is way more important than you think.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I mean. Like it's a responsibility. Like it's very important and stuff, but like when I look at it on a day-to-day perspective, I mean, I try to be really stoic with everything. So I know that if I get excited about it, or if I get arrogant about it, or if I let it go to my head, it's going to go away. Every single time in my life where I've gotten arrogant about something, it's fucked up. Like it does not work. It is an emotion that I should not have and should not feel because it ruins things for me.
I feel like being excited about things is important though.
Excitement, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Because excited is really similar to nervous. And I try to just stay like really calm. Like I was nervous to come here today.
Yeah.
Like I'm in the car like doing breath work while I'm driving here, like holy shit, this is happening. I'm getting interviewed for a podcast. Like I really don't, like in my head I shouldn't be here right now.
Sure.
Like this is such an anomaly for what I'm used to my life being.
That's so cool, dude.
And I'm starting to get comfortable with the idea that that I have a story worth telling and that I've lived this life that can inspire people, and that by telling my story and by being authentic and showing what I've been able to make of myself, people can learn from that and grow from that and improve themselves from that too.
I think that's 100%, bro. I also think like anyone who puts effort and intention in whatever they're doing in their life, people can learn from, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, dude, even like just talking, we met at a American Ninja Warrior gym, and like I don't do that stuff a lot, and that was your first time there, right?
It was my first time at that gym,
the fact that we clicked right away when we knew similar people, it's just like those type of people who like inspiring people and open-minded enough to like learn new things, because like there's some people in the fitness industry who are just like bodybuilding, who are strictly just calisthenics, strictly just runners, and they see some dude wielding a sword, they're like, what the fuck's that guy doing?
Yeah.
Right? And they get totally closed off minded about it. And then there was like, I guess me, when I saw it for the first time, I was like, what does he know that I don't? Right. And then like, oh, I want to learn about this guy, and so on and so forth. So like this guy I rent out the gym space from, he does barefoot running, right?
Oh yeah.
And
huge fan of that, by the way.
Well, we do like miles in the mountains, right? With these sandals. They call them Zotlis. Like he helped design them, like old Aztec designs. I'll show you them in a little bit. But
Sweet.
Because we put Vibram like hiking material at the bottom, but it's literally like a 1/4 inch of material that we're running the mountains with. And there's so many people that we go hike these mountains, and they're having their poles, like these huge, like thick hiking boots. And there's two people we get the people that are like, good luck, you're not gonna make it to the top, like whatever. And there's the people like, wow, like what do we not know? Because these really fit dudes are running up and down these mountains with nothing on their feet.
Exactly.
You know? And so to have that open-mindedness to be like, that's interesting. What do they not know that I should?
Yeah.
And then just dive into it, because like clearly like you know it's working because you've done it for yourself. And I know the barefoot shit's working because I don't have hip, knee, or joint pain, because I've been doing it for like 2 years.
Yeah, I started barefoot training actually when I was 15 too. So I'm a huge fan of that. Like it goes into everything else, where it's like my first instructor was the one who inspired me to barefoot run, and basically his instruction to me was you should barefoot run for 3 miles, and the entire time you're doing it, you have to be bouncing a tennis ball back and forth.
Oh, wow.
And it breaks the rhythm of your arms while you're running, and also trains hand-eye coordination. So I would be running around suburban Chicagoland barefoot, bouncing the tennis ball.
That's even more odd than us doing it in the mountains.
Oh yeah.
The thing that we do that's weird is we'll take like a 50-pound medicine ball. And we'll like carry it up on one side, you know. And the guy who owns the gym, he did it with 100 pounds.
Oh my god,
100
dude, that
pounds,
dude's
bro.
core is insane.
Insane. He just did a 50-miler in Joshua Tree, bro.
Oh my god.
Barefoot.
In the heat?
In the heat.
Oh my god.
You want to try these real quick?
Yeah.
So we're sponsored now by the seltzer, Brute Seltzer, my buddy's brand. It has a full serving of BCAAs, not no other like thing. No, there's no caffeine, just full serving of BCAAs.
There's no caffeine.
No caffeine.
It says 200 milligrams of caffeine.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm lying. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Where?
On the side here. The circles.
Oh, there is 200 milligrams of caffeine. I guess we're going to get wired up, guys.
Oh, yeah.
My apologies. But full serving of BCAAs.
Yeah, like, let's get that ASMR again.
Oh, there we go. Oh, that was nice.
That was beautiful.
That was beautiful.
That's a Pepsi commercial right there.
Yeah. So they're in, I think, GNC. Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
In North Hollywood. You guys can go get them there. But yeah, and he sponsored the podcast. They're delicious.
That first word that came to mind. That's really good.
Yeah, he just launched it last week.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, he's you'd be a fan. He just sponsored his first UFC athlete, his debut.
Oh, sweet.
This logo's gonna be on this guy's shorts. I forgot his name, but
that's awesome.
Yeah. So I guess like diving down to like just the simplicity of things, what does movement do for you?
Movement is everything.
Can you go further?
Movement is the only thing that we have genuine control over, and thus it's everything. I really like the idea that like life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it.
10% of what happens to 90%.
How you react to it. So like how you move is how you react and respond to life. So even this conversation is movement. It's movement of our mouths, it's movement of our thoughts, it's movement of energy from nerve to nerve in our brains that create the thoughts that go on back and forth. Movement is me moving my hand up here. This motion changes reality. on
Reality in what way?
the entire universe.
How so?
Because if we look at the universe from the perspective of like, okay, everything's made of atoms, and if you get down to the smallest level, everything is made of like the same tiny particles, and we're just like the universe experience in itself.
Sure.
Me moving my arm as a conscious decision creates a tiny ripple in reality that does somehow change everything.
Okay.
In the same way that me swinging a giant sword around on social media can inspire people all around the world to start training.
Sure.
So it's just movement. Like, I didn't say anything in any of those videos. This is my first time actually like getting to like talk on camera and like put myself out there.
This is the first time Tom
More than just movement.
his voice is out here now, guys.
Yeah,
you
like
know what he sounds like.
Yeah.
It's not the Dragon Slayer voice.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the TikTok
day
text to
10.
speech. Yeah. But yeah, like literally just movement has changed my entire life. So yeah, I think movement is everything. You know, it's like the person who wakes up and rolls out of bed and doesn't do 50 push-ups in the morning, that movement will direct their life. And the person who wakes up, rolls out of bed, takes a cold shower, does 50 push-ups, eats a healthy breakfast, those are just movements. But those movements dictate the quality of that person's day. So movement is everything.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Like picking up, like the food part, I think is like slightly different because I guess you're deciding to put this food into your body, and if it's like bad, it affects your day. Like if I eat a really nice burger and French fries, like I'm gonna feel it.
Yeah.
You know, but that's not necessarily that's a choice. That's a decision. Right.
Well, a decision is a move. Like in chess, you don't say what's your next decision. It's what's your next move. Exactly. So I mean, but I know what you're asking. You're asking movement about like actual like physical exercise movement.
No,
not
I mean
like
I like the answer. I like the
philosophical.
Answer I like the philosophical answer.
Move through the universe thing. Movement to me is it's definitely a form of expression, but it's also a form of, I think hygiene would be the best word for it. I see fitness as a hygienic practice. I think that stretching should be in the same realm of importance as brushing your teeth. Same with working out. I think it's something that everyone should do every day to an appropriate extent.
Can you emphasize the importance of stretching? Because like I would say I'm not great at it compared to working out. I would say like my working out to stretching ratio is probably an 8-2.
Yeah.
And why is stretching just as important?
Because your muscles grow in two directions. Your muscles can grow larger and your muscles can grow longer. And when you work out, you break down the muscle tissue, you make it stronger. When you stretch, you pull on the muscle tissue, you make it longer. And the longer your muscles are, the longer your potential range of motion is. And then the more room you've created for your muscles to grow.
So what do you have to tell people out there who don't really stretch and they say it's not that important?
It is that important, and you should be stretching. That's really all there is to it.
How was working at Stretch Lab, bro? I have one crazy story that I heard from a friend who I think worked at the one in Culver City, something like that. So she was stretching out, not she, a coworker was stretching out like this really big bodybuilder dude. And she was just like cranking the leg, cranking. The guy's like, I could still go. I could still go. And she's like, you sure? Like, I don't think you can. And he's like, yes, go, keep going further. And his hamstring snapped. Like, you heard that shit.
Oh my God. No, I never saw anything like that. I had a really positive experience working at Stretch Lab.
That's great.
I went into it knowing full well that it was going to be the last job I ever worked.
Oh.
And
How did you know that?
Because I decided it.
Oh, you decided
this is going to be the last job I work. I will work this job until I figure out what my business is. And when my business takes over my income, I will quit. That's what I said to myself.
That's inspiring, bro.
Thank you. And it was actually a great job. I always thought that when I...
Congratulations to Tommy, guys. He just quit his job as a stretch therapist at Stretch Lab. Full-time Dragon Slayer. What's they called when they make swords? Blacksmith?
Yeah. More of a carpenter in my field. But Yeah, so I always thought that, like, when I quit my job, it was going to be the most, like, fuck you, bitches, I'm out, like, never have to work again, I'm rich now, like, that type of thing. But, like, I actually was really sad to go. I loved my clients. I loved my coworkers. My manager is actually one of the best guys I ever worked for.
How did you get the courage to quit then? Because even though you, like, really enjoyed it and you were sad about leaving.
I weaned down my hours. I went from working 6 days a week to 5 days a week to 4 days a week to 3 days a week to 2 days a week. And it got to a point where I was losing money while I was working, where it was more profitable for me to
quit.
Yeah, I had to quit. Like, I'd be going to Chicago to make swords, and I'd have to come back to go work at Stretch Lab. And I'm like, this isn't right. Like, I need to be here in Chicago making swords.
Yeah.
And I have to fly back to California to work.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was making roughly $200 to $250 a day working at Stretch Lab. I would work a 6-hour shift.
Sure.
If I was fully booked and I was getting tips, I'd make about that much.
Yeah.
And I sell swords for ranging from about, you know, $230 to $280 a piece.
Yeah.
And when I'm selling 3 swords a day, it's just like, this doesn't work. Like, I need to be focusing on this. So I actually had to quit.
Yeah.
And I was hoping I could stay longer. I was like, I really developed a relationship with a lot of my clients. They're very professional people.
Yeah,
I learned a lot from them.
That's the biggest thing, because, like, when you build a relationship with these clients, they're more than that. They become friends, right? And, like, you see them every day, every week, and, like, they're part of your life, you know?
Yeah,
it's like,
absolutely.
So it's like cutting off, like, a part of your life. Like, damn, like, these people are important to me. I care about them.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to let them go. I still have a problem, like leaving people or not taking clients, because I know, like, I can positively affect them, even though it might not be in my best interest.
Yeah.
You know, sounds like to you too.
Yeah. And that's an interesting thing about being, like, in the service industry, but, like, the better part of the service industry. Like, I worked as a host at a bar, which was one of, like, the more difficult jobs I worked, which I definitely would not do again.
No, you deal with some shitty people.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the hospitality industry for sure. To be, like, to put a face on when, like, someone's not being nice to you and you still being nice to them regardless of anything that they say is a very difficult thing that, I don't know. I always tell people, like, regardless of, like, whatever job, if you have money, if you don't, like, one time in your life you should be working in hospitality, because it'll teach you a lot of life lessons.
Oh, absolutely. I think 3 things everyone should do is work in hospitality or, like, retail, work in sales, and try to start a business.
Yeah, I feel like if you do all those 3, you hit mostly everything. Yeah. How does it feel to see the sword in action with, like, people that you don't know? It's surreal. How so? It's like there's, like, a disconnect. Like, in my head, I'm like, this isn't real. Like, I didn't make this. Like, they're doing this on their own. Like, it's just like, it doesn't. It's literally like, it does not compute. Like, it's so different than anything I've ever done or felt in my life that it's like, this is just. It's such a different feeling. Yeah. That's the only way I can describe it. Yeah. I think I have that similar feeling. I think yours is slightly greater in the sense that, like, I guess the swords are more money than bitters, obviously. Like, look how tiny that bottle is compared to that big sword. But, like, there's a few bars that are using the bitters, and, like, there's some people who bought off the website who I just, like, don't know. And I'm just like, to have an idea in your head and to make it a reality, and then other people are using it, and it's brought some value to another human being from an idea that you decided one day to make reality is really weird. Yeah. It's really weird because, like, this thing would not be here without you. Yeah. Those bitters would not be here without me. You know, and it's just like, you could have passed up on that idea. You could have just let it fly by. Yeah. And you decided to grab onto it. Like, no, I'm going to make this bitch a reality. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think was it your podcast where you were talking about, like, if you don't go into a creative idea that you have, it'll, like, go to someone else. Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of like that, where, like, part of me doesn't want to take ownership of the idea. Because, I mean, I didn't create the idea of giant swords. I didn't invent swords. Swords have existed for thousands of years. Kentaro Miura is the first one who drew up the Dragon Slayer when he was making Berserk. And but it's weird. Like, I make this thing, I paint it, I coat it, I do whatever with it. I wrap it up in a box, and
And the next time I see it, if I ever see it again, it's like on my phone, someone's posting a video with it.
Yeah.
Like at that point, it's so detached from me that it's like there's a level of like non-ownership to it anymore.
That's true, but you also like you sense it out, you know where it's going, and then to see it in action, like it's crazy. And the fact that it's so fucking big, bro. Like the fact that these people are getting it from Chicago, and like they're just like, this dude made it in I don't know, where's the craziest town that you've sent it out to? Like that you're like, what?
Someone to Budapest right away. Actually, like my third order was in Budapest, Hungary.
Really?
Yeah.
Does shipping to like a different country, like is it more expensive?
Shipping for that sword was $3 less than the price of the sword itself.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah,
they pay for it, right? They pay for the shipping.
They paid up. Yeah. I just got my first order to Australia, actually.
Congrats, bro. That's
Thank you.
Sick.
Huge achievement. Shipping nationally actually isn't that bad. It ranges from about $30 to $60 in the continental United States.
Yeah.
I'm sending one up to Alaska this week. I think it's going to be like $100. Yeah, it's not as bad as you'd think. I like Western Europe, like England, Germany, like the more local Europe is also about like $100.
Yeah.
So it's not terrible. I just got a guy who's messaging me. He's in Brazil.
Okay.
Not like a big city in Brazil, like a smaller city in Brazil. And it was going to be like $200 something to ship down there. And it was just like, he was like, yeah, I can't do this.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But
in your opinion, why? So like, I guess my theory on it was like, back to the stories and like the types of people that like anime who are trying to get into fitness. Like that's my theory on like why someone wants to order a big sword and send it across the country to work on it. Like why do you believe that these people from all over the world, just seeing you swing in a sword that has not even heard your voice until probably this podcast goes out, like are ordering them and paying attention and is excited to join, I guess. Like you started a community, bro.
I think it's because it creates this idea that something that is impossible today can be possible tomorrow if you're willing to work for it. And that's, I mean, we only got to like the 17, 18-year-old part of my story.
Yeah.
So when I was 18, I competed in mixed martial arts.
Okay.
I won my first fight in 43 seconds.
Shouts out.
Yeah.
Oh, what was it, MMA?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then my second fight, I lost on decision, and during that fight, I tore my labrum in my right shoulder.
Gee.
And
your shoulder's better now. I saw your story. You recovered it yourself.
Yeah. So the next, basically 2 years of my life were me learning to fix my shoulder. And at the time, I was like really invested in this idea that I was going to be an MMA fighter. Like my personality and mental image of myself was like my self-worth is attached to my skill as a martial artist.
So that was your identity. Like how good I am as a martial artist is how good I am as a person.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's also a fantastic reason why I trained so hard. That literally that's who I was. Like,
could you okay, so a little, I guess, like related story to that is I wanted to be a professional golfer growing up. Right. And like when I was, I guess like 18, I tore a ligament in my left wrist.
Oof.
Right. So I was like right over here. And every time I swung a golf club, I just like was painful. So I got like recruited to Pepperdine, UOP, some of these colleges to play. And they dropped me. I couldn't play. And similar to you couldn't fight probably.
Yeah.
Right. And like, dude, I would cry. Like I would cry at home and I'd just be like, this is who I am. And like now looking back at it, I'm just like, wow, that's crazy that you ever thought that way, because us as humans are way more than this one skill set that we have.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. And it's also cool because it's like, I was into like alternative exercise, but I started studying physical therapy and I started studying a lot more of like the swing strength, like clubs and kettlebells and nunchucks and all those things way more after my injury, because I started to see so much more value in it. And that expanded my knowledge so much, expanded my focus so much. Like I was so tunnel visioned that I forgot that there was so much more to life. And it also created a foundation of knowledge for everything I'm doing now. Yeah, like I wouldn't have gotten into leverage-based strength training had I not thought about like how can I make it so that my shoulder doesn't hurt. Because for me, the issue wasn't like my shoulder's injured, it needs surgery. Like I was told I needed surgery, that my shoulder would not get better without it. And I was like, no way, that's not true. I refuse to believe that was true.
Yeah, which is kind of fucked up in the health space, dude. Because like there's these doctors who are not fit, who don't eat healthy, right? There's some doctors out there, shouts out Huberman, who are like fit and healthy, right? But just because they have this expert title, doctor period, everyone believes that what they say is 100% true. And I was like, maybe they might be, but like it's hard because so many people are primed that way for their entire life to believe that what a doctor says is 100% true.
Yeah.
And like you had the open-mindedness to be like, okay, like I don't believe it even though he might be right, but I'm gonna explore every fucking option to try to fix this shit before
surgery
I have
was
to
a last resort.
Right?
So to me, the problem was very straightforward. There are positions I can hold my arm in and move in that don't hurt, and there's positions I can move my arm in that do hurt. And the reason pain or injury happens is because the muscles and ligaments responsible for holding a joint in a certain position aren't strong enough to do so with the force that's applied to them. Okay. So like there would be positions where like reaching, like if I was driving a car and reaching into the back seat hurt. However, at the time, if you had taken my arm and moved it here for me, that didn't hurt. What that told me was it's not the movement that hurts, it's the muscles in the back of my shoulder that are pulling my arm to here aren't strong enough to do that. So what I had to do was strengthen those muscles to the point where they could. And then I could start adding load to it. And then I could get it to a point where not just I could add load to it, I could add load and speed to it. And I could start doing things to make it stronger and stronger to the point where now it's like, okay, now I can move my arm over my head again. I can hold weight over my head. I can rotate my arm back. I can rotate my arm forward. I can do all these things again that I wasn't able to do. And it was just about training all the muscles to be strong enough to make up for the notch in my labrum.
That's so funny, bro, that you just made like this complicated biological problem super simple. If it doesn't hurt, I can do it. And
exactly.
And if it does, I'm just going to agitate it a little bit or try to move it around to where if I do it a lot, it won't hurt. And then you continue that process over and over again. You know, when a lot of people, they just like, they'll have an injury and they're just like, fuck, I'm not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Zero, stop. Which, yeah, sure, rest is definitely a key factor in recovery in a lot of ways. But also, like, you're not going to rest your entire life, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, figure it out. Yeah. You know?
Like, I had one of my clients was a doctor, kidney doctor, great guy. And he had an injured shoulder, and it was, like, screwed in place. And he basically, his shoulder was locked up into, couldn't go above here, had not moved it in 20 years. Outside of this range of motion.
Haven't moved his shoulder in 20 years?
He had not gone above here or above here.
God.
He stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And his rationale was, if I do it, it'll dislocate.
Yeah.
And I was like, when was the last time you did? And he goes, it's been at least 20 years. And I go, well, if I hold it in place and I'm really careful and I keep your scapula in place, let's see what happens. And he was very protective. He was very resistant. But little by little, he went from here to here to here, and he never got back to here, but he got another 10 degrees over the course of about 8 months, which goes to show if you stick with something, you start working at it, the body adapts. I mean, it's a known fact that every cell in your body is different every 5 to 7 years. You're a totally different person on a cellular level. So it's like
100%. Like when people say like people don't change, I'm like, physically your whole body is completely different. Every cell in your body is totally different. So therefore you are a different human.
Like I'm gonna be 25 this year. I'm basically on like Gen 5 right now.
Young buck too, bro.
Oh, thank you. But so I try to believe in that. Like, it took 2 years for me to recover my shoulder. Like, there were points it was dislocating multiple times a week.
At the end of the day, that's not that long.
No. I mean, the surgery would have been an 8-month recovery where it was like I would have been in a sling for 3 months. I would have been immobile for 8 months, and then I would have been in physical therapy for a year.
Yeah.
It was the same amount of time. However, I never needed surgery. And the end result was I actually had greater mobility than I ever would have had. And with the surgery, it ends up, you get your tendons tied. Now you will not have that range of motion again. Yeah. So I actually unlocked.
Why did we get into that? Because you were talking about, like, I didn't finish my story at 18, and then you were trying to make a point after you said your recovery.
I think it was how I got into, like, recovery stuff.
Oh, okay.
So that's how I started researching recovery. And one of the best things I got into during that time was cupping, which
I've never done it. Does it help?
Specific problems, yes. For me, cupping was great because when my shoulder would dislocate, I would be out for 2 weeks. Okay. Shoulder dislocates, all right, now it's swollen, needs 2 weeks to go down. When I learned cupping, shoulder dislocates, I ice it, wait a day, cup it the next morning. By the next day, I can start training again. I mean, I'd have like the purple bruises everywhere, but it pulled all the swelling to the surface and allowed me to keep training. So that really sped up the recovery process. I've used cupping since for other things, and it hasn't been as effective. So I think it's one of those things where it depends on the issue.
Okay.
Which I think is also really relevant for a lot of things of fitness and nutrition, where it's like, yes, this thing works if you're using it to solve the right issue. Yeah. There's no cure-all, and there's no issue that can be solved by every problem. Yeah. Or there's no problem that can be solved by every solution.
Every solution, yeah.
But the right problems have the right solutions and vice versa.
Because I feel people are just throwing Hail Marys sometimes. They're like, oh, my back hurts, I'm going to go to the chiropractor. Oh, my back hurts, I'm going to get a massage. Oh, my back hurts, I'm just going to get like cryotherapy or cupping or whatever. And they only go to like that one thing. It's kind of just like they don't know what solution solves that problem.
No, and it's so funny you say that. I was seeing a chiropractor for the past 2 months. I had this crick in my neck.
Yeah.
I found out it was a combination of things, but what I think it actually was I was wearing a single earbud while putting my motorcycle helmet on. Okay. And when I was putting my motorcycle on, I was pushing it to the side and like doing this. And I think I like tweaked something in my neck when I was doing that.
Yeah.
And I was seeing the chiropractor and they were readjusting me, and it was still hurting. It was getting better. Literally, like, we went to the gym one day and I told him my neck was hurting, and he just like rubbed the spot for like maybe 45 seconds. And I was like, I moved my head and I'm like, wait, it's completely better.
Yeah.
I've been like,
what?
Yeah, like, it was totally better. It was just a really, really, really bad
Tommy just needed a massage, guys.
Yeah, literally.
So can you explain, by just people who haven't seen your content or seen like the Dragon Slayer workouts, what else can you do besides just swing it? And turn it around? Because like I've seen you do some other stuff, but like what can you do a full body workout from it?
Oh, absolutely.
How so?
I mean, besides the fact that you can swing it, it is a 20-pound weight.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can do.
Do you weigh all of them out?
No.
Okay.
No. 20 pounds is definitely an arbitrary number.
Okay.
They're wooden. However, it's generally a consistent amount of effort. And there are definitely boards where I get the board and I'm like, oh, this board is really wet and it needs to dry for a month. So I won't cut swords out of those because they end up being really heavy.
Dude, wood is different. So I made this bar with a buddy of mine.
Yeah.
Back at home. And wood is tricky to work with. Like, cause like if it's wet and it ends up drying, like it just does its own thing. Like wood has a mind of itself, you know? But continue back to the workout stuff. For what can you do with it?
One of the things I really like with it is holding it by the sides and doing wrist curls with it, as well as just regular curls.
Okay.
And that trains the grip in a really specific way where you're basically training like a pinch grip like this. I feel like grip is one of the most neglected things in fitness overall. Yeah. And just forearms and forearm strength as a whole is just really neglected.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it in rock climbing, you see it in jiu-jitsu, you see it in arm wrestling, but
one of the biggest factors of lifespan is grip strength.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's studies on it.
Yeah.
You know, because like when you get to a certain age and you fall, or like you have to grab on something quickly, right? Because a lot of people die from just falling.
Yeah. No, this is actually something that's going on right now. My grandma recently fell and broke her hip.
Fuck.
And she's been struggling with dementia for a few years, and this is like a pretty consistent thing that happens with older people is they'll fall, break their hip, and then while they're in the hospital, they'll get a UTI because they can't get up to go to the bathroom and properly take care of themselves. And the UTI will actually make their dementia worse. So my grandma in the past couple months has really, her condition's gotten a lot worse.
I'm sorry, dude.
And it's because she fell.
Yeah. And so you could relate that back to grip strength.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But grip strength, curls. Can you do any leg stuff with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any body weight squats you can do.
Okay.
You can also do holding it. When I was trained in it originally, like it was a goof around workout with this guy I was training with. The rule was when you're swinging it, if it touches the ground, you have to hold it over your head and do 30 Olympic squats with it. Yeah, so.
Dude, that's a hard movement to do. So, like, I just started teaching at this gym called Helix, like, cleans. Like, I got relatively good at it to where, like, I can teach it. But, like, the snatching overhead movement is, like, it's not that I'm not strong enough to do it. It's the mobility part. You know, it's so hard, you know?
Yeah, and it forces you to keep your back really straight, to keep your weight back on your heels. There's a lot of stuff to it where
your hips have to stay open, your shoulders have to be open, like all the way back.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's your favorite movement? I guess, like, if you had to choose.
I knew you were going to ask this question because you asked it in all 3 of the episodes I listened to, and I thought about it, and I'm like, I do not have a single answer for this. There's too many. If I really had to pick, it comes down to 2 that I think are probably the most relevant to day-to-day health, and it's dead hangs and bridges. Like a back bridge. Like a gymnastic bridge.
Okay.
And I think those are the 2 best movements for, like...
I love that you said hangs. I don't think anyone said hangs yet, because most time I tell my people, so I have a pull-up bar right here, right? And I tell most of my clients, they're like usually over 40. I was like, the biggest thing that you could do for yourself is to just like wake up and just hang every single morning.
Yeah.
Right.
I think everyone should hang 5 to 7 minutes a day.
That's a long time. Why 5 to 7 minutes?
Because we evolved to hang. And the same way, like we did, like our muscles evolved to be swinging motions. Like
I understand that, but like, is there a reason why a specific 5 to 7 minutes?
Because it's a lot.
That is a lot.
It doesn't need to be all at once. Like it can be like a minute in the morning, a minute here, 2 minutes in the evening. Like, but getting time doing that, because first your grip should be capable of doing that.
Should be. I feel like you're either overweight or weak if you can't.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And also it's a proper amount of time to reverse the effects of gravity on the spine, where it's like in the same way that like, oh, you should probably like touch your toes for 30 seconds because that's how much time you need to like release your hamstrings. You need 5 to 7 minutes to reverse the effects of gravity compressing your spine, especially if you're sitting, you're working at a computer, your shoulders are forward, you're like this. You have to spend time like this. And then bridging takes it a step further, where if you're spending all your time hunched over in a computer like this, how often are you...
You're doing the opposite.
Doing the complete opposite, forcing your spine to open up like this, opening your psoas muscles, pressing through your hips, you know. It's really great too because it brings that circulation into the hips and genitals, which is good for hormonal health.
Yeah. How, so I can't do a bridge. I haven't tried in a while. I think I can kind of do one, but not hold it very long. But I guess where do you start for it? Like if someone was like, okay, I could hang, but I don't know how the fuck I start getting into a bridge. Like where would you start?
You stand 2 feet in front of a wall.
And put your hands back.
And you reach back and you touch the wall.
Okay. And then just keep going down, progressing that.
Absolutely.
I like that.
That's all you do. And it's really straightforward and scalable.
Yeah. What do you call it? Okay. So just in terms of like fitness, like to be the most optimal fit human being, like what are the top 5 movements for like strength and mobility training, like combined, like to, in your opinion, to like have the most optimal body?
Pull-ups with perfect form, number 1.
Pull-ups with
absolutely
perfect form.
You need going
Strict
from
pull-ups.
Total dead hang to scapular pull, slight external rotation, pulling through bar to chest, back down, control the whole thing.
I agree.
Number 1, absolutely. Pistol squats.
Pistol squats.
Yeah.
Not regular squats. Pistol squats.
I mean, regular squats, depending on the level you're at, but like being able to do a pistol squat is great. You get a fantastic range of motion. It's a considerable load.
It's slept on.
Yeah.
It's slept on.
I've been using pistol squats for years now. I think they're fantastic.
Yeah. If I forgot what you said. I think one post that I read, I agree with it, you too, because I tell my clients this a lot. I was like, hey guys, you shouldn't be lifting weights if you can't lift your own body weight. Yeah. Like, period.
Yeah, I think mastery of body weight is just really important as a whole. I would say one-arm push-ups with really good form too.
Tank Tommy's out here just like, you guys got to do every ligament by yourself. But yeah, one-arm push-ups, I agree.
And then
So we got basically chest, we got back, we got legs. That's pretty much it.
I think the kettlebell snatch is one of my favorite movements.
Over a kettlebell swing.
Yeah. Because the snatch, you have the swing in there.
I agree.
So it's the swing, but also you get that overhead stack movement too, which really helped me when I was repairing my shoulder. So I think that's a great motion.
Yeah.
Also massively taxing on the grip.
Yeah.
One more.
I feel like core. What would be a good core one?
Something rotational.
Rotational.
Yeah.
Like transverse plane.
Yeah. Something twisting. Probably being able to throw a punch is a good one.
Yeah.
Being able to throw like a really good punch.
That's crazy because like being able to think about fitness in all these lights, or I could say viewpoints, because you've somewhat spent a good amount of time in each of these realms, is really interesting. Because like for me, I spent a decent amount of time in jiu-jitsu, a decent amount of time in bodybuilding, powerlifting, and a good amount in calisthenics. Like, so I view fitness and running. So like marathons or mountain running. So I view fitness from those lenses, right?
Yeah.
And for you to tell me these things, it opens my brain, because like I feel like I know a good amount, and like I feel like, so like my lifts are like what I think is most important. Dead hangs we have similar on. Usually I would say kettlebells, a lot of like loaded squats or deadlifts or whatever. But you like throwing a punch, I would never even guess you would say. But then now I think about it, I was like, that makes total sense for like using your core in a transverse plane.
Yeah.
Or like for me, I don't sprint a lot, but like my buddy who is a track runner, he's like, yo, it's the best core workout. And then I try it.
Oh yeah.
And
I would say that's in the top 10, definitely.
You know?
I would say,
because sprinting's similar to throwing a punch.
oh, absolutely.
Like, that movement each time.
It's very coordinated. Sprinting isn't just running as fast as you can. Sprinting is a very coordinated movement.
It's technical.
Where you need to be coordinating the movement of your arms and legs to be going at the same time. You have one side of your body going all the way forwards, the other side going all the way back, and your legs and arms are moving equal and opposite. It is every single muscle in your body is involved.
Yeah. Dude, what inspires you to, I guess, or intrigues you to like study these things without any, I guess it's not like a physical achievement, because like you don't have a degree in any of this, do you?
I did 1 year of kinesiology.
But you don't have a degree in it, like you didn't study 4 years of it.
I did not graduate college. It was not for me.
And you didn't get a like personal training, anything?
No, I'm a certified personal trainer,
Okay, so
and
personal trainer.
I guess I would consider my black belt a type of certification.
That
I
is
worked for it for several years.
definitely a certification. But like I would say most personal trainers don't know like in depth of, I don't know, how Shaolin monks train or like any of this stuff. And like what inspires you so much to, I guess, like dive deep into like the actual science of it? Because at the end of the day, you don't need to understand it that deeply for it to affect your life.
It's the idea that I don't know what's possible. And that if there's things that haven't been discovered yet, I want to discover them. So if you look at the field of fitness as we know now, it has changed dramatically in the past 10 years.
Yeah, that's an understatement, bro.
10 years ago, we weren't supposed to put our knees over our toes.
I know. And then knees over toes guy came along.
Yeah, exactly. Like stuff like that. So it's like, I feel like I don't look at fitness as like, oh, I'm just this guy working out. I literally look at it as like, I am discovering things about the human body. We know so little
about the human body.
Yeah. As a whole. Like we just like started discovering like the epigenetic system.
Yeah.
Which we found out, what is it, like several times more complicated than the DNA system.
Yeah.
Which is just like billions and billions of connections expanded like multiple times over. It's massive. So we know so little about the body. We know so little about the brain. There's no consistent argument as to like what the best form of training is. All it is exploration. So I'm hoping what I can do in my time, besides inspire people to take their fitness seriously, is create a lifetime of research using my body.
It's also different for other people too.
Absolutely.
Because like might work for you might not work for someone else. Like there's different body types out there.
Absolutely.
I mean, like a perfect example would be like, I guess we would simplify like a squat. Like people have longer femurs than other people, right? And so like a high bar versus like a low bar squat, just because of like your body mechanics, like is going to be completely different. So like if someone
front squat versus a back squat, even
front squat versus back squat. Also, like some people might not have the wrist mobility or the shoulder mobility to like get that up there yet, right?
Yeah.
And or you could have super long femurs to where like it's super hard to hold that front bar because you have to basically bend over into like a similar deadlift position because your body just can't do it. There's some people who just like physically can, like it's very hard to. I don't want to say can't, because like I feel like anyone could eventually get their body to conform and adapt, like you said, into any movement with time, effort, consistency. You know, but yeah, just that.
It's about it's about just like figuring out what's possible in the sense that like people are always trying to study science and different realms of reality, and it's just like, oh, there's this whole realm of reality of what's physically possible for a human to do in their life. And you have people out there like David Goggins who have just completely changed what is known to be possible for a human to do as an endurance athlete. You have people like Wim Hof who have changed what we know is possible for a human to do with just their breath and their mind and with cold exposure. I'm trying to change the idea of what's possible for a guy like me who, on a natural level, I used to think of myself as generally a pretty weak person. I am not naturally very strong. I was very skinny growing up. Even with martial arts, I wasn't like well built. Putting on muscles, to me, like my mental image of myself is I'm too skinny. And like for me, I'm like in my head, I'm like, oh, my shoulders are still weak. And I'm now at a point where like I'm starting to realize like, wait a second, I'm actually pretty strong. And it's because I've been working for this consistently for years now. So it's like if I've gone from being weak as a kid to strong as an adult, what's possible for me to do in the next 10 years if I'm consistent for a decade, which is enough time to go through 2 entire cellular cycles. Like what can I code myself to do next?
What do you think the secret is to, I guess, consistency? Because I feel like that's the biggest problem, I guess, with like myself and most people in the world. Because like people start working out and then they stop within 3 weeks. People start eating healthy for a while, then they stop. People start a job and then they stop. And then, you know, like consistency is probably one of the biggest things, in my opinion, that is the biggest factor of growth. Because like there's a statistic was for, I guess, podcasting was like most people, I think 90% of podcasts don't get past, 50% of podcasts don't get past episode 5 and 90% of podcasts don't get past episode 20. So if you get past episode 20, you're in the top 10% of podcasting. And I was like, oh, you just got to keep doing it. And then you're going to be there and it's going to be good, you know? And so like, that's how I train my brain to do that. But I guess for you, and like, how have you stay consistent for your shoulder, for training, for X, Y, and Z? Because a lot of people can't.
For me, I think it's always been identifying with it. So for me, it's like I make it a part of my identity. In my head, I am like when I was training to be an MMA fighter and training to be, you know, the quote unquote the greatest martial artist in the world. In my head, I thought I am the greatest martial artist in the world on my journey to becoming that. Like that's who I was in my head. That's all I thought about.
It was the beginning of your story.
Exactly. When I injured my shoulder, it's my identity was I'm figuring out how to fix my shoulder, and it's almost like a mantra. So part of it is definitely mentality and mental strength and willpower, but it's really about being able to identify with your goal. If you decide that you're going to run a podcast, you know, identify as a podcaster. You've made it a part of your identity. You made Inspirit Bitters part of your identity. You've made the fact that you're a bartender and a trainer part of your identity. It's who you are. So it's not you're Nate and you have some things that you do. It's you are Nate who does this. Like it's you are your actions, and realizing that like all you really are in life is a culmination of the actions and decisions you make. So just make ones that are consistent with who you want to become.
I love that definition of like, I just who you are is what you do type of deal. But the counter argument to that to a ton of people is like, a lot of people identify as like a doctor or like a lawyer or like I am a professional athlete or X, Y, and Z, but some people don't like that. They're like, I'm much more than that, right? So like it's a lot of people don't like identifying with what they do. Like I'm much more than a bartender. I'm much more than like whatever. So like that's interesting though, that it's helped you with your consistency, and that might be why like a ton of people aren't consistent, because they don't like identifying with the actions that they have.
Well, in a way, it's limiting.
It is limiting.
Because when I identified as a martial artist, suddenly I wasn't a student anymore. I wasn't all these other things that I was. I wasn't a dancer anymore. I wasn't an artist anymore. I wasn't a kid anymore. I was a martial artist. That's who I was.
Yeah.
So I'm the Dragon Slayer guy now. I'm not all these other things that I am. And it's weird because
why not?
Because that's who I'm known as.
Now. Yeah.
I hope that in 2 years from now.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of people aren't, which is like interesting, because like I had this buddy of mine on, and he does like everything, like literally everything. Like he's a chef, he's a videographer, he's a content creator, he makes these like mushroom drinks, he does everything. And he was like, yeah, I don't like it when like people put me in like a box, you know. I was like, yeah, but you can't be known for everything, you know, but it's also cool to do everything. Yeah. But maybe not everyone needs to know about it.
Yeah, of course. I'm more interested in my like point of view experience of life than I am what other people think about me. Like for me, like it's not like who am I in everyone else's eyes, it's who am I in God's eyes. Yeah. So it's like, you know, if I'm consistent towards God, which I mean, God's a huge part of my life. We haven't even talked about that at all. Yeah. But
what's your is it God in a religious standpoint, or is it like, what's your definition of God?
God is an omnipotent force that is comprised of everything in the universe. That is, I would say, he is all loving, but he's also gives you exactly what you ask for and what you put out for. So for me, I put the Dragon Slayer into the universe. I put energy and effort into it, and God decided to give me the life experience of going viral for it and giving me a platform to inspire people with it.
So do you think it is your definition of God like from a biblical religious standpoint, or is it more like a, I don't know how I would describe it.
I think religion is a guidebook, and every religion is a guidebook of like, you know, paths up this mountain towards God and towards enlightenment and all these things. But when you're actually walking the path, you realize that it's the difference between like reading a how-to book and like actually going and doing something. Yeah. Where it's like you read it and you're like, okay, this is correct. Like this, everything here like is true. But it like, I still have to, it doesn't do the work for me. Yeah. Like I was raised Jewish. I read the Bible recently. I've studied Taoism, Buddhism, and a few other religions and philosophies. Right now I'm reading through Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
Great book.
Oh, phenomenal.
I just finished it.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm reading it. I'm like, okay, this like gives me knowledge. It like arms me, but it's not fighting for me. It's...
Yeah, because Jordan Peterson, for the longest time, I don't know what his viewpoint is on now. He was like, I live my life as if God exists, right? Yeah. So like, I guess the Bible for me, for the longest time, I was like, this is a guidebook of like, I will live like, I guess like Jesus in this book. Be a good person, be kind to people, be selfless, like be giving, you know? So like, I was like, those are great points. And I was like, I'm going to live that way, regardless if that definition of God is real or not, you know? Yeah. So there's that. But like the thing is like for me, because I did a big, similar to what you did, I don't know if I went as deep, like reading Meditations, doing all these other research about different religions. I'm just like, it's hard to know what is real. Yeah. You know, and absolutely. The whole philosophy of like life is like, there's so many people who need to have an answer for everything to not lose their fucking mind.
Yeah. And I think that's fear. Yeah. You know, and that's really the difference between like faith and fear. And I think that's part of the thing that, that's where God comes into play for me. I think one of the most influential books for me in my relationship with God is Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Okay. Which if you haven't read it,
I'm not.
I would say that's probably top 3 books easily.
Just in general?
In general.
Really?
Yeah. It might be the most important book I've ever read.
Outthinking the Devil, you said?
Outwitting the Devil.
Outwitting the Devil.
Yeah. Phenomenal book.
Why do you think it's the top 3 books that you ever read?
It's changed my mind about reality more than any other book. And about, like, the relationship between my mind and reality. Which is the best way to put it.
Okay. So what would your definition be of reality?
Reality is your experience through life.
Yeah.
It's day to day, like, what does your life look like through your eyes? That's reality. That's all it is.
Yeah, I guess the counter argument too is like someone could be experiencing a reality that is not real, like to most people, right?
Yeah.
So like you could literally be on drugs, and to them that's real, right? And
Yeah, I mean, we
life.
could be brains in a jar right now. I literally could be in a padded cell right now. You are not real.
Yeah.
I'm in a straitjacket talking to myself. That could be
We're
a
in the
reality.
Matrix, guys.
Like that could be real.
Could be. It's very
But
unlikely, but
it doesn't matter whether I know it is or isn't.
yes.
All I can do is move through it
because
intently,
just because like you can't change that. It's like regardless of whatever, like I'm in this current existence right now, and I'm going to do whatever I can with the resources I have and the knowledge that I have access to to live the best fucking life that I can.
Yeah. So like, this is actually something like totally breaking off subject, but
no, good.
So during the pandemic, I road tripped the country for 8 months.
I love that. I'm jealous.
Yeah, I moved into my car and just like hit the road. I had literally zero plan.
Okay.
And I ended up finding myself in this town in Georgia called Cumming.
Okay.
Dead serious, called Cumming, Georgia. Cumming.
Really? We love
yeah,
that.
they own it. Yeah, you go to like the Walmart there, they have like a Cumminopoly shirts that say like I heart Cumming. Like it's amazing.
Okay.
But
were you just laughing
all the fucking time?
Do you get high at all? Do you smoke weed?
Not as much as I used to.
Okay.
I smoked a lot of weed during 2020 and I got really depressed and it wasn't great.
Okay.
Smoke weed a bit now. It makes me anxious and it makes me paranoid sometimes. So it's like if I work out a ton and I'm like full of endorphins, then I can smoke and then it feels good. But like anything less than that, I'm just like, oh God, where the fuck am I?
I was just asking because I feel like I would be laughing my ass off if I see that and I was high.
Oh yeah, it's so funny. But
A quick tangent before you finish your story is like when we go on these barefoot runs, we get like lit out of our minds and we can run for like miles, dude. And, like we'll go for 20 miles.
That's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and my brother have like gotten high and run before, and it's just like, oh, you just keep going. You don't notice. And like I don't know. I just get caught in a rhythm. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, bird 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. I don't know. I just get in a rhythm like that. And like so many people like define, I guess, like pot smokers as like pothead people who are like sinking their couch, which can be a definition of it. But like all the people who smoke weed in my life are productive ass humans, bro. Also, can we pause for 1 second? I'm like halfway through, so I just gotta run to the bathroom.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cool.
Yeah,
I'll be right back.
And we're back. So you were talking about Cumming, Georgia.
Yeah, so I wanted to tell you like the exact moment that I really started to find God.
Okay.
So the first place I went to my road trip was Nashville, Tennessee. Drove 7 hours down south. I was going through like some really crazy shit. Like 2020 was probably like one of the hardest, lowest years of my life. Fell out with like my whole family. Me and my brother weren't talking. We'd been fighting like all year. Me and my parents were fighting because of all the stuff that happened with my brother. I lost a lot of my friends. I was smoking a ton of weed.
Yeah.
I fell out with my sifu. Like literally everything in my life fell apart.
It was just going shit.
Yeah. And so I end up in Nashville.
I heard Nashville's a great city.
One of my favorite cities.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm there. Day 1 of my road trip. I wake up in my car. I like walk into this like smoothie shop, and I just asked them if they have like a bathroom I can like brush my teeth in. And the dude behind the counter, he's like, no, we can't. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like I start walking out. I'm like walking up the block. He comes outside. He like yells. He's like, yeah, come back. You can use it. I'm just like, okay. Like I walk in downstairs. I go, I brush my teeth. I come back out, and it's this guy Addison, and to this day he's still like a really good friend of mine. We call every once in a while and catch up. He's
That's awesome.
A1 guy. he looks at me and he's like, are you spiritual at all? Like, do you believe in God? I'm like, yeah. He goes, do you believe in the Holy Spirit? I'm like, I don't see why not. Like, at this point, I'm like in such an empty place. I'm like, I'll take anything. This guy looks at me and goes, I'm a seer. And when you walked in here, the Holy Spirit like showed me stuff about you. And I'm just like, okay.
What's a seer?
Seer, like he sees stuff about other people. Like it's like a type of psychic.
Okay.
And he goes, the Holy Spirit showed me you in your room surrounded by demons and you're just in so much pain. And I'm like, that sounds like the last 9 months of my life.
Fuck.
And he just looks at me and he starts telling me things about me that nobody knows. Like shit that happened to me when I was a kid that like fucked me up. That like he just should not have known. And he's just like, this stuff happened and it does not make you any less valuable in the eyes of the Lord. And I look at this dude, I'm like, who are you? And he ended up taking me to church with him.
This is in Nashville?
Like, yeah. And like me being a Jewish guy, like he takes me to church.
Yeah.
So I just get like this great experience. I'm brought into like some of the most like loving community possible. He's best friends with one of the ministers of the church. The minister of the church is also a Jewish guy. This is right around Hanukkah. So that year, the minister felt called to have a Hanukkah ceremony at his house.
Okay.
He just like felt called to do it.
Yeah.
And then I just show up and I'm this Jewish guy who like happened to be there when he's having it. So I get invited to his house and we have this Hanukkah dinner and like they just like welcome me into their home and it was one of the crazy experiences I've ever had. So that was like one of the first like really mind-bending experiences I had with God.
That's recently. This is 2020.
Yeah, this is the end of 2020. That's when it all started. Like I wasn't like I was into like Taoism and spirituality, but like I didn't really have like an actual like, whoa, God is real and he is actively interacting with my life until I left on my road trip. And there were a few other experiences like during the road trip where I had that. Like there was one where February 1st of 2021, I got in a really bad car accident in Virginia. And at the time, I was transporting pool tables across the country.
That sounds like a tough job.
It was wild. I would 100% do it again. I learned so much during that time. And the manufacturer was actually like a really good mentor to me.
Are you good at pool?
I'm decent at taking pool tables and putting them together.
Oh, there you
Pretty
go.
good at that. But
it takes a lot of muscle, dude. I've put one together before. That shit's heavy.
Oh yeah,
heavy.
No, so I was driving like 70 to 90 hours a week.
Okay.
And then like helping out at the wood shop where they were being made, which is how I learned carpentry.
Yeah.
And so I get in this car accident. It's I'd been driving all night.
What year is this? This is after your road trip?
This is February 1st, 2021. So this is like middle of my road trip.
Oh. Wait, so this is while you were working like with pool stuff during your road trip?
It was how I funded my road trip.
Oh.
My road trip was me taking pool tables places and then like exploring and then going back to Georgia and doing it again. So I explored like most of the country by doing that. And a lot of the places I went, I literally I was sent there to take a pool table there.
Okay. So
I get in this car accident and I'm there on the side of the road. The pool table flew out of the truck. Had it been like 9 a.m, I pushed the pool table back over to the side. I call the manufacturer and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm freaking out. He's like, you got to get that pool table back in the fucking truck. And I'm like, I can't. It's like it's on the ground. Like I can't open the back of the truck. It's heavy as fuck. He goes, you get that fucking pool table back in the truck and just click. So I go outside. I try to get the pool table in. Can't get it. Go out again. I managed to kind of flip it up inside. Still can't get it and it falls back over. I get back in the truck. I'm freezing. I'm in like jeans and a t-shirt. I didn't even pack clothes because I'm driving the whole time. So I'm not like outside, but it's like a blizzard. And if you're on the East Coast, if you live on the East Coast and you were there like February of 2021, you know there was a horrible blizzard going on.
Yeah.
So I'm in this blizzard. This is happening. Cars driving by. I'm getting splashed. And I'm sitting there for a second. I just decide I'm going to go out there and I'm not going to get back in this truck until that pool table is in the back. The moment I decide it, a car pulls up next to me, stops, like without missing a beat. Window rolled down and a dude just goes, hey, do you need help getting that table back in the truck? Instant. And it's those types of experiences where it's like, that's how I really know that like God is real and interacts with the universe through your mind. Because every time I've decided something with that level of intensity where it's like, this will be the rest of my life, it happens.
I also don't think a lot of people decide that with 100% certainty that they're going to do something ever.
It's something that I think is so important in life, is to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And it's a commitment. And that's the thing that's scary about it, is because when you commit to something, you are saying no to everything else.
Well, that's the definition of decide, right? Like decide means to cut off, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cut off everything else, you know? So like it's the only option type of deal.
Yeah.
Those are crazy stories, bro. That's amazing.
Yeah, but that was like a 70-mile-an-hour car accident too. Like, it was, I could have and probably should have died. Like, I see that as a complete turning point and even restart to my entire life.
Yeah, it's crazy how I guess like life and death experiences. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've had them, but like the amount of people who've been on the podcast or like just had conversations with that, when they have been close to death, their entire life has changed because they realize that what's that Confucius quote, like, every man
has two lives and the second one begins when you realize you only have one, you know?
Yeah, and that shit's real.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, death has always played a huge part in life and in my decision making. Like, the Dragon Slayer thing started right after my grandfather died. You met me right before, actually. So at the time, I was like really intent on American Ninja Warrior. My grandfather had cancer, and the doctor had basically given him like a few more months. So in my head, I was
when did I meet you? Has it been over a year?
No. It was this was like October of last year.
Okay.
So you met me at the Ninja Warrior gym. In my head, the story I was telling myself was like, I'm going to apply for Ninja Warrior, and my grandpa's going to get to see me on TV like before he goes. Because I wanted to do that for him. Yeah. And like, I didn't even care about winning anything. I just wanted to like
be on it.
Yeah, like give my grandpa something to see while he's in the hospital, because he was stuck there. And the last time I talked to him was Halloween. He called me, and then he died like a week later. Fuck. And like the whole idea of like me going on American Ninja Warrior, I just completely forgot about it. It was just like, I don't even care about this anymore. Like, it's my grandpa's dead.
Yeah.
The Dragon Slayer originally was literally just like, I needed to do something. Like, I was just in such a rough place. I was like, this dude who was just a rock in my life for the first 24 years of my life is just gone.
Yeah.
And for me, the Dragon Slayer was just like, okay, this is something I can do one day at a time, and I can measure the progress, and I can document it, and I can do something with it.
Yeah.
And that's all it was supposed to be at first. And what it's turned into is, you know, one of the most amazing things in the world. But all it is just a decision to commit to something.
Yeah. Well, the consistency part, I think, was the biggest thing from that as well that I admired you for. It's because, again, similar to the podcast, is like posting something every single day, or like for a very long period of time without any results, without seeing progress, and then all of a sudden like the progress hits, it's hard to do. It's just like, oh, I'm gonna do it, this is what I do, and I'm gonna keep doing it because it's what I do. You know, and that's crazy that because of like your grandpa that this happened. Like, for me, a lot of death happened early in my life. So I lost my aunt in second grade. And then I lost a lot of friends in high school, community college, from like suicides and all this stuff. And what death did for me in that aspect, I was like, some of them were on accident, like car accidents and stuff like that. And I'm just like, fuck, like, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to do because there's a chance that I don't get to do it.
Yeah.
And that's a reality. Like, there's this book called The Denial of Death. And it basically talks about the psychology and sociology about dying, you know, and a lot of people just don't, I mean, they don't think it's in their mind, it's not real.
It makes them uncomfortable. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, it's easier to not think about.
Like, to have this conversation, like, without either of us kind of being uncomfortable about it,
Yeah.
right, is it shows that we've thought about this concept a lot to where we're comfortable about talking about it.
Yeah.
Because it is a very uncomfortable thought process to go through.
Yeah.
Because you could be stuck in your head for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Because I remember one day I was at college and I drove home. I just decided I just like went in my car, just straight home to my grandparents. I just gave them hugs. And like no one knew I was going home. I went to my uncle's house, gave them hugs, and I went to my parents' house and gave them hugs. And they were like, "What are you doing home?" And I was just like, "I realized that I'm gonna die one day. I wanted to give you guys a hug."
Yeah,
They're
man.
like, "What's wrong with you?"
Dude, that's real shit.
You know, because I listened to this podcast with I think it's Jesse Itzler, and he said he was talking about when we get older, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to see, you'll probably see your parents or your grandparents maybe once a year, right?
Yeah.
And so say they're like 70
Yeah.
and they get a chance to live like a really good life. So it's around 90. So you get to see them 20 more times.
Yeah.
And that puts shit in perspective.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and you're like, and it's probably gonna be less than that. You know?
No, I think about that a lot, like especially now, and like part of the reason I'm so thankful about my business taking off is it gives me a reason to go back and forth from Chicago to LA. Like
Yeah.
I need to be in LA to be promoting it, to be training with it, to be networking with all the people in fitness. Like I couldn't do that in Chicago.
Yeah.
But also the price of lumber in LA is double
Yeah.
than it is in Chicago. So
bet.
like it's actually cheaper for me to fly to Chicago once a month.
Also, like an LLC fee in Chicago versus LA is
Yeah.
way cheaper.
Well, actually, my LLC and company is here.
Oh, it is here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know I was going to make it in Chicago when it started, so
Okay.
I'm still figuring out all the logistics of that.
Yeah.
But it gives me, like, I get to go to Chicago once a month now and see my family, and that's
Yeah.
the most amazing feeling in the world. It's like
Yeah.
I get to come in, see my family, and not just like see them, but like my dad's helping me with the business,
Yeah.
which is like I'm actually getting to like learn from my father really directly,
Yeah.
which is so valuable.
Yeah.
And like,
Well, carpentry, bro, and like woodworking, like it's kind of a lost craft out here.
oh yeah,
Because people don't have houses out here, people don't have wood shops out here, you know, and like the guy built this with like he had his own wood shop stuff in his garage in my hometown of Fresno. Like,
Yeah.
not that many people have that out here.
No.
And so it's kind of cool. People stand out. You're standing out because it's different in the space that you're in, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, a personal trainer, bartender don't go together. That's why it's like intriguing.
Yeah.
Right. Fitness and anime kind of don't go together because you
they're
think
starting to. It's a growing
it's starting
niche.
to, but like if you think about like anime and someone who watches anime a lot, it's usually not like most of the time it's not a jacked gym bro.
It's funny you say that because like
Or is
the
it?
amount of jacked gym bros I know
Or
who
in anime.
love anime.
Okay.
It's unbelievable.
So maybe that's just like not a space that I'm in then.
no, but I mean at the same time, like okay, while there are a lot of jacked gym bros who love anime, if
Yeah.
you go to a Comic-Con, you'll see like the group of jacked gym bros.
Yeah.
But they're definitely like a very small percentage of the group.
Okay.
So like the actual like larger populace, it's like
Okay.
it's
No, I'm not saying that there's none.
Yeah.
I'm saying that like most are, right? And
Yeah.
I'm saying it's growing. But my point is like the Jack Gym Bros who are into anime is interesting. Therefore, a lot of people like gravitate towards them.
Right.
Right. So, for example, for fitness, like I have a buddy of mine. He's in the arts, right? He curates museums and everything like that.
Yeah.
And he went to school for it. And he's like kind of the only fit dude in his class. And so, like, all these people are wanting to go get trained by him because they didn't see an artistic dude who's ever looked like him. That makes sense?
absolutely.
Yeah. So like that's what I'm saying. Just like I honestly think that the reason why also that you're like skyrocketing in the social media space is because like yo, it's so different that it's so attractive.
Yeah.
You know, because like dude, it just stands out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of this beacon of just like strength and positive energy
Yeah.
that it is. And I mean, a sword has always been like a symbol of strength, but
Yeah.
like using it in the way I'm using it it's inspiring.
It's also
And that's what it's designed to do.
It's also a tool for strength.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, looping back to what I was saying, like right now I'm known as the giant sword guy.
Yeah.
my goal and my vision is that a year from now, I'm known as hopefully one of the most positive and professional people to work with in the entire fitness industry.
Work with in what way?
Anyway, whether it's a conversation like this, whether it's creating content, whether it's just helping people, whether it's running business deals, sponsoring people, getting sponsored by people, just I want to be someone that like my name and my brand is
Shouts
like
out Ashman Athletics.
Thank you. Is a relief to work with. Like people hear that, like, oh, we got like Tommy Ashman coming, and everyone's just like, oh, fuck yeah, we love that guy.
Yeah.
Like he adds to whatever situation.
I mean,
he's
I already
in.
got that right now. Like yesterday, I don't know if you met them. So it was Jason and Kev at the Ninja Gym.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I remember that guy that sewed up Beyond. John hit me up and he was like, hey, dude, like I heard Tommy said to tell me about on the podcast. Like, I hope it goes great. Like, I was like,
that's
this is so weird. I met this dude one time.
Yeah, I want to make everyone around me better, and I really believe that like, you know, the way to succeed in the world is to serve the world.
Yeah, I had this guy who on the podcast who built brands such as like Under Armour, Lululemon, like grew them.
Yeah.
And his line is like, we all get further together.
Yeah.
You know, and like there was this bad culture. I don't know what even happened like growing up, probably when I was around 13 or around like that age for you as well. It's just like, oh, like you have to do whatever you can to put people down so you can succeed.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that came from, because like now all the friends that I have just like, oh, what can I do to help you?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just like, where did this like stigma come from? Because it's in my head still, like from past experiences, I guess, or like past past I don't know, nuggets of information from childhood.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's a competitive versus collaborative mindset. And like what I'm really learning about leadership is entirely about helping. It's not about helping people get me towards my goals. It's about helping people get towards their goals. So like, for example, I have this guy, Sean Couch. Shout out the Sean Couch. The Sean Couch.
Shout out Sean.
He's the guy with the Buster Sword.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
he's jacked.
he is another animal. Dude is so strong.
Yeah.
And he's so nice.
Yeah.
And his whole thing is he wanted to train with giant swords, and he wanted to start doing that for, you know, a professional thing. And he saw me and he was like, yo, I want to do this. And from my perspective, I'm like, okay, I'm going to hire this guy. I'm going to have him help me write the strength training program. He's a professional strength and conditioning coach. He works with world's strongest men.
No way.
Dude, he's so strong and he's so smart in his field. It's amazing.
That's so.
So
How did you meet him?
we literally met at the beach 3 years ago when I first brought the Dragon Slayer out.
You brought it out 3 years ago?
Yeah, I've been training with Dragon Slayer since 2019. I wasn't doing it consistently, but I had it.
Yeah.
So we met before the pandemic. Pandemic happened. I had to move back home, kind of restart everything.
Yeah.
But we met before then.
Okay.
So then when I came back out here, we met again. And this is after like road trip and all these other experiences. Now I had grown. And I realized like, okay, I have the opportunity to help this guy further towards his goals. And it's not about like him helping me. It's about I can help him, and in return, we'll both benefit.
Yeah. We all get further together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by providing him with that opportunity and with that direction, I'm now leading him down this path. But it's not like I'm leading him like I'm controlling him. I'm just like, hey, I'm going this way. Do you want to come with me? I'm finding this way. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And now we're stronger together because now we're together going down the path.
That's awesome, dude. It's crazy how that works out, because like it really pays off to be friendly with everyone you meet, because you don't know like what they do, and you don't know what you could do for them, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
That aspect, because there's some I feel like everyone, you could learn from everybody. That's why I love doing the podcast. I think that's the reason why I started it. I would have so many conversations with like good friends on the balcony, smoking a cigar and drinking a glass of whiskey, and I was like, oh, like I wish I had this recorded, because I would want to look back and be like, oh yeah, Tommy said something about Shaolin monks and like the blood flow, and like I was like, fuck, I don't remember it. That's the reason why I started the podcast, you know. And so like you could learn from everybody, and I feel like they in turn that could help you grow as well as them, you know.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, from strength training, and if you implement the big sword in there, like that makes you stand out from the thousands of fucking fitness influencers in Los Angeles. Because
exactly.
It's a very competitive space.
Oh yeah.
Like there's so many trainers, there's so many athletic people out here that it's hard to make a living off of it.
Yeah.
You know, and you've proven to be able to do it with big swords.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Proof of concept.
Absolutely. That's the whole thing with it.
What are you most excited for in your life right now?
Dude, there's so much I'm excited for. I'm really bad with questions where it's like, what's the number one thing? Because I don't narrow things down to what's my favorite. I love every single thing I'm presented with.
Yeah.
Today I was most excited for this.
Yeah.
Now it's like, wait, this is going to be over in a matter of minutes. So it's like, okay, what's next? I'm probably most excited to hit a workout after this.
Yeah.
That's the next thing I'm going to go do. I'm going to go drive back to the west side and go to Gold's and hit a workout.
Nice. How is Gold's these days, by the way? I used to work out there when I was in college. I worked out there for probably 2 years.
Dude, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. John's actually the one who got me to start going there. I was going to a boxing gym called Churchill's.
Okay.
Which I loved it there, but like...
Gold's has like you walk in it, and I don't know if you believe in this, but like I feel like some buildings have like they know there's some life to it. Like this building has experienced a lot of people go through it.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of history of bodybuilders and every type of fitness person in the West Side. And like you, right when you walk into that building, you're like, oh, like I feel something in here.
Oh yeah, it's energetic.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's really what I love about it. I love training there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I miss it, but like it's crazy that like some of the biggest athletes in the world have walked through that space.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Heck yeah, dude. Anything else? I think that's pretty much it, dude.
No, we're coming up on like 2 hours too. So
awesome.
Yeah,
perfect timing. Where can everyone find you?
Everything is under Ashman Athletics. My website, ashmanathletics.com. My Instagram handle.
ASHMAN, right?
ASHMANATHLETICS.com.
Cool. And then find you on TikTok and Instagram at Ashman Athletics.
Same thing, Ashman Athletics.
Dude, I'm excited to have you on in like a year or so to see where it grows. It's cool. It's inspiring to hear that you quit your job to build swords and inspire people and make people better, bro. It's cool that we got to sit down and do this. I appreciate you.
Dude, thank you so much for having me. And if I have like 5 seconds, I gotta do like the whole like gratitude. Like I have to thank my mom and dad for you know, everything in my life. I have to thank my brother for being there for me, and even though we've had our differences, coming back into my life and being such a rock. I have to thank Stretch Lab actually for giving me a really stable and great job for the past year. Thank you for giving me the opportunity and the platform to talk.
Yes, sir.
And
I'm excited for it. I'm
excited
for the future.
Everything.
Yes, sir. All right. Mr. Tommy Ashman, everybody, have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.